Welcome to District Dialogues. My name is Marvin Arrington Jr., Commissioner for Fulton County, representing District 5. District 5 encompasses parts of the new city of South Fulton, Southwest and Southeast Atlanta, East Point, Union City, and College Park. Some of the great landmarks in District 5 include Zoo Atlanta, Fort McPherson, which is now home to Tyler Perry Studio, Porsche headquarters, the Camp Creek Marketplace, and my favorite, Wolf Creek Amphitheater. During this show, we hope to share information about organizations, initiatives, and resources in District 5 and throughout Fulton County for areas that I champion. So let's get straight to it. In addition to being a district commissioner, I serve as executive sponsor for arts and culture in Fulton County, vice chair of the Atlanta Fulton County Recreation Authority, and as a member of the Arts Commission for the National Association of Counties, or NACO. As such, I like to share with you arts and culture organizations and programs in Fulton County. Today, please meet artist Matthew Terrell. Hey, Matt.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Well, we're glad you're here. Tell us about your art and why you chose to focus on HIV.
So I have a sculpture up right now at the National Center for Civil and Human Rights. It's called Atlanta's HIV-Positive Population Now. I call it a data-driven piece of public art. We use CDC data that's been compiled by Emory University's Rollins School of Public Health. They have a project called the AIDS VU map. And it charts in really interesting ways the HIV epidemic across the country, and you can go really granular to even the zip code. So what I did was I looked at their data for the metropolitan Atlanta area, and I created the sculpture that is a pyramid behind the National Center for Civil and Human Rights, and it's got a simple number on it. And I go out there once a week and I change the number to reflect the number of people in metropolitan Atlanta living with an HIV diagnosis.
Wow. And so why did you choose the shape of a pyramid, and what's the latest number of people that you put on the sculpture?
Well, if you go back into like the 80s, the triangle was a symbol of ACT UP, which was one of the very first HIV and AIDS arts organizations that was really trying to get information to the people about this issue. And there's also, I think, some sort of technical side to it as well, that we had to produce something that could be put outside that wouldn't be climbed on. And so it's harder to climb on a pyramid.
All right. And what is the latest number that you inscripted on the sculpture?
So last Friday I went out there and it was 30,218, I believe.
And that is the number of people in metropolitan Atlanta with HIV?
Living with an HIV diagnosis. I should clarify that there are 13% of people who are HIV positive who don't know that they have HIV. So that number is actually quite low. There really are thousands of people in the metropolitan area who don't know they have HIV. I go out there every Friday and update the number. Currently, we're averaging 28 new diagnoses weekly in the metropolitan Atlanta area.
Wow. And why did you choose the Center for Civil Rights as the home for your sculpture?
So it's the National Center for Civil and Human Rights has a really great program related to HIV awareness. HIV is a human rights issue. What's I think a lot of people don't realize is when we fail to respect human rights, that means access to education, particularly comprehensive sex education, access to health care, even as simple as regular health screenings. HIV becomes much harder hitting in our community. And it's a twofold problem where when we have HIV in our communities, it becomes harder for us to realize full human rights for an entire community.
Well said.
Thank you, sir.
How do you feel visual arts is a valuable tool to help address various social issues like HIV?
Well, I think that it's really interesting for, as a visual artist, to find new ways to communicate. I consider myself a creative communications professional. My background is actually in writing. I went to an art school, and I have photography and some sculpture experience. And I've been doing HIV advocacy for several years, and I wanted to come up with a way that I could boil down and simplify the HIV epidemic in our region to something that was visual and something that was impactful. I think that's really what art's strength is. It can communicate clearly to people. It can be moving. One thing I've really talked a lot about is I believe as an artist, it's my role to ask questions, not provide answers. I don't have the answer for HIV. We all have the answer for HIV in us. How do we respond to this? And so this piece of art is really about the response. What is the conversation we can create about HIV? How can I get every single person in our community talking about it and doing something about it?
You know, it makes sense. I heard someone say that we can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone.
Absolutely.
And so what is the end result that you hope your piece will achieve for people that come to the center and see it?
Well, first of all, I would like to say it's actually outside of the center, so you don't even have to go into the center and buy a ticket. You can actually see it just driving by Atlanta, driving by the corner of Ivan Allen and Centennial Olympic Park. What I want this piece to do is really just create conversation about HIV in Atlanta. There's really a small sort of bubble of people who are working in HIV advocacy, and we know a lot about it. But there is a huge group of people who don't know that this is an issue. And I'm thinking of politicians, business people, people who work in healthcare, soccer moms, everyday Joes. We all live with the impact of HIV in our community, and I want to get everybody in Atlanta talking about it and thinking about how they can contribute to ending the epidemic.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Matthew. Very glad to have you. Excited about your piece. I'm going to have to go by and check it out myself.
Thank you so much, sir.
So it's right there in Centennial Park in front of the Center for Civil and Rights?
It is
Civil and Human Rights.
Civil and Human Rights. It's the back side along Ivan Allen Jr. It is centered between the center and Union Mission. I'm there every Friday at noon. I hope you'll come out one day and help me change the number.
All right. I'll be happy to.
All right. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. We'll be right back after a short break. In our D5 Spotlight, we give recognition to organizations and individuals who are striving to empower our communities and county. Our next guest is Mr. Carell Driscoll, president of the South Fulton HOA Alliance. Welcome to the show, Carell.
Thank you.
So we're glad to have you. Tell us about the HOA Alliance, the South Fulton HOA Alliance. What is it and why did you start it?
Well, the South Fulton HOA Alliance is an organization where we are standardizing how we manage and operate our communities. This HOA Alliance was started because we didn't have a firm understanding on how to run a community association. And so in talking to a number of individuals that live in different communities, they offered advice on how to manage our community. And from there, we thought it would be a great idea to bring all of these good practices to bear and share them with other communities throughout the unincorporated South Fulton area.
And I understand you have a Communities Against Crime initiative. What are some of the other biggest challenges that community associations are facing?
Well, that's a very long list, but we'll keep it short and just pick a couple of good strategic ones. First, there's the apathy. In these communities associations, we have some individuals who really just want to enjoy the community. They go home and they don't want to be bothered and participate in some of the other programs. The other one would be ignorance. A lot of people don't know anything about the rules that govern associations or the laws that are actually provided by the Georgia Nonprofit Code. And then finally, high level of emotions. Because there's a significant amount of ignorance about how to run and manage and how to work with these HOAs, it tends to create a significant amount of conflict.
How are board members perceived by members of the community, and what are some of the things that board members can do in order to help control that perception?
Well, it's more of some people take a stance of us against them. they look at the board members as the association. So if they have a problem with the community or with the association, then individuals who are on those boards are perceived to be enemies, when in actuality, in most communities, board members are homeowners first and should be treated as such. So say, for example, as a board member, we would not implement any type of rules or push any type of policy that would be counterproductive to our own families. And so if we're not going to harm our own families, then we're not going to harm any other family. So from our perspective, boards should seek out training, right? And with that comes lessons on how to communicate, lessons on how to manage, and lessons on how to operate within those community associations.
So speaking of training, tell us about the HOA boot camps where you offer training, and how often do you do those, and what happens?
Well, HOA boot camps is a series of events now. It started out as one event where we bring together the best talent, right? They can be attorneys, other types of organizations that service community associations, county representatives like from public safety, code enforcement, that come out and they teach and they train individual residents and board members about the different aspects of community associations. So say, for example, engaging the county. Engaging Fulton County is a major part of managing a community association. Or even working with an attorney who represents the community association against lawsuits, or making sure we stay abreast of recent changes in legislation. We started out again with one major event, which in this year will be November 18th at the Georgia International Conference Center. But we've also grown since we've started this HOA boot camp in South Fulton. Now it's in Cobb County, DeKalb County, Henry County. We also have Rockdale on board. Looking forward to delivering a HOA boot camp out there too. So those are more like the mini camps, if I may. And the huge HOA boot camp is in November 18th.
So tell us about the legislative changes that the HOA Alliance is seeking regarding transition from developer to homeowner and other issues like reserves.
Okay, so we'll start with the challenge. The challenge has been in the past for a number of community associations. The transition from declarant run board, or some people would say builder, but really it's a declarant, is that there's a transition without a transition. They just pack up, they leave and hand it off. Sometimes that leave no reserve accounts. That leaves us with retention ponds that were not maintained over several years. In our case, it was a decade. With the new legislation, it would push a requirement for communities to establish a reserve account and hold the declarant accountable for an actual transition from the declarant board to homeowner board. And some of those details, would actually be provided in that bill. But that's just at the high level, what we're trying to do with that type of legislation. Equally important, there's an attempt to preserve and protect the individual rights of all of the residents that live in those communities. And so it would be something similar to what they've done in Texas, but we just don't have that consistent protection here in Georgia.
So how can homeowners and communities find out more information about the South Fulton HOA Alliance?
Well, homeowners can visit www.southfultonhoaalliance.org. That is the website that will provide a significant amount of information about the South Fulton HOA Alliance.
Well, we thank you for coming out today, and thank you for the work that you do with the HOA Alliance.
Thank you.
When we come back, our Justice and Public Safety segment. Stay tuned. Welcome back to District Dialogues. In addition to serving as an executive sponsor for arts in Fulton County, I also serve as an executive sponsor for safety and as a member of the Justice and Public Safety Committee for National Association of Counties, also known as NACO. In our Justice and Public Safety segment, we like to share information from our partners that provide resources and information about public safety in Fulton County. Today, please meet John Anton, Public Safety Director of Airport West CID. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Pleasure.
Glad to have you. If you will, I guess start out by telling our viewers about Aerotropolis Atlanta and the CID.
Sure. Aerotropolis Atlanta CID is actually two community improvement districts. One that started back at the end of 2014 being Airport West Community Improvement District, and it merged with the Airport South Community Improvement District, which is on the Clayton County side, which started in 2016.
And what are some of the biggest crime problems that Aerotropolis CID is facing?
Well, the first thing that always comes out whenever we talk about the South Side is that there's a perception issue. It's because we start off things on the news and it seems like everything is happening in South Fulton. So that's one of the first things we have to get through is the perception. But when I first started, there was three major crimes that I wanted to target, and that was auto theft, that was entering autos, and pedestrian robberies. Three things that really focus on the area, which would stop businesses from coming into the area or people from enjoying what we have in the area.
And what solutions did you take to address these issues?
Well, the first thing we did is we started enacting some of the nuisance crime ordinances inside of Fulton County with the cities of East Point and College Park. So we started by addressing those pirate signs that you see that are inside the right-of-way that are illegally placed. By picking that up, that adds a beautification level, and that stops some of the loitering and some of the crimes that you see that manifest in that area. The next thing we did was we brought on a 24-hour security company, Force Incorporated. They're a local company. We did a bid process, got them in, and they're familiar because they have these little smart cars that they drive around in. So we get a lot of interest based on the smart cars. Very aggressive observe and report security company. We were also able to sit down with Chief Stiles at Fulton County Police, and he allowed us to use the RPOPs, which are the Retired Police Officer program he has. So I have a number of RPOPs who are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, still have their arrest powers, still have all their police powers. The benefit that it gives is that it doesn't take away from the call volume for the men and women of the Fulton County Police Department that are actively working calls. These are retired officers who are there on their time, which we pay for.
Awesome. It sounds like you've got a great working relationship with Fulton County Police.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What have been the results of your partnership with Fulton County Police and bringing together of the Airport West and Airport South CIDs?
So the best part of it is that we've seen a drastic decrease in crime. So in the year and a half that I've been monitoring it, crime has dropped 34% in the area. So that is a win for all parties included. That helps the business community, that helps the everyday citizen, and that helps the large portion of travelers that are going to and from the most traveled airport in the world.
And what do you contribute that turnaround, that dramatic decrease? That's great. What do you contribute that to?
It's a small addition problem. It's my collaboration plus communication equals a community of protection. So I don't just work with the Fulton County Police Department. I also work with City of Hapeville, East Point, College Park, City of Atlanta, and then Clayton County Police. Together, sitting down with all those chiefs, having good dialogue, good communication, they understand the impact that taking crime out of the area is really doing for the CID and improving the economic development of the area.
And the CID is where the property owners or business owners tax themselves in order to be able to provide these extra services?
Correct. It's a self-tax.
What crime concerns are you currently focused on now that you've gotten the decrease in the 34%? What are the current hot button issues?
The one thing that I've seen that has continued to grow is the auto thefts and the entering autos in and around our hospitality and entertainment area. Anywhere you have a large population of vehicles, it's a target-rich environment for auto thefts and for people who want to break in cars. So we've really stepped our patrols around the Georgia International Convention Center and in and around the corridors of Virginia Avenue, Bobby Brown Parkway, Norman Berry, where the hotel industry is. and we've seen a dramatic decrease there. The next thing that we've really jumped into is I'm happy to sit on the board with Safe America Foundation in dealing with the human trafficking. Some of the problems that we have seen historically that have happened up and down Old National with prostitution. We're losing our youth to human trafficking. So anything we can do to make sure that we're alleviating that issue and getting boots on the ground to help these young men and women who don't have a way out of this horrible crime, we're there to help them.
And do you work closely with or partner with other CIDs like the Fulton Industrial CID?
Absolutely. My mentor when I took this job was Frank Mazzelli. There was only a small handful of us who actually had public safety directors. So working with Frank and Gil at the Boulevard CID really helped me learn a lot about the area, what kind of crime problems I needed to pinpoint, and we're working together as a whole on that. So it's a regionalism view. It's not just one person, one body.
Well, collaboration is key. What are your goals for the near future as it relates to law enforcement inside of the Aerotropolis Atlanta CID?
The next thing I'm hoping for is a 50% decrease in crime. I really think that's achievable. I think that with the start of a new city in May, I think being able to sit down with their city leaders and getting them actively involved and seeing what reductions we've already done, that's just going to add another layer of that community of protection. That's going to help us out. Focusing on technologies for 2017, the use of camera systems, the use of license plate readers in and around the area. And we're going to make sure that we televise it and make sure we publicize it, letting the criminal element know, you come through this area, you're on video, and we'll catch you.
Sounds good. It was a pleasure having you here today on the show, John. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
As we close out today's show, we would like to receive words of inspiration and motivation from Pastor James Childers of the United Methodist Church.
Today, as Americans, we live in a divided country. Even families are divided. It would seem as though divisiveness is a natural problem for America. We should work to change this through developing an idea of working through the challenges that we confront. We're better off if we embrace challenge rather than seeing our obstacles as nothing other than problems. There's much we can learn from nature. Consider, if you will, the redwood tree in California. This tree is an old tree and the tallest tree, and yet it has lived for hundreds of years. But the tree has a very narrow, very shallow root system. Now, one would think that a tree with shallow root system would not find adequate water to live. And yet the redwood tree is able to sustain itself because it intertwines its roots with other redwood trees. And through this process, the tree has lived for hundreds of years. If we are to continue to move toward the yellow brick road of success in life, then we as a community must find ways to better communicate with one another, to better support one another, and to acknowledge that others have much that they can offer. Even other cultures have much that they can offer us as we strive to be the very best that we can be.
As we conclude today's show, I'd like to invite you to stay connected with my office. You can reach me by phone, email, website, and of course on social media through Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching District Dialogues. We'll see you next time.